Hello and welcome to Teddy Tuts, brought to you by London Cyber School. Before we start, please note that the copyright of this material is vested in London Cyber School Limited and all our rights are reserved. In this session, we are going to deal with summarizing in academic writing. So what really is a summary? The Oxford Dictionary defines it as follows. A summary is a brief statement or account of the main points of something. It does not include needless detail or formalities. It is brief. Now, right at the outset, we need to differentiate between a paraphrase and a summary. To paraphrase is to capture the essence of a specific concept, issue, or theory that is contained within a text. By contrast, a summary is to communicate the essence or a synopsis of the total text. So, a paraphrase aims to discuss the concept, the issue, the theory relative to your own research or your own aims. The summary, on the other hand, is there to capture the essence of the text, that's the entire text, and to communicate that essence succinctly. So how best do we go about summarizing? I would recommend you try to apply the TT space method. Firstly, top and tail. What we're trying to do here is to reflect on the main theme or themes in the text. Remember, you're dealing here with the entire text. So you top and tail the article, chapter, or section that is relevant to your research. How do you do that? Well, you read the extract, the summary, or the introduction at the beginning of the article, and then you skip everything else. You go directly to the conclusion at the back. If the conclusion is very long, I would recommend that you scan read that, and we deal with scan reading in the next slide. The important point to note here is that by reading the introduction or the beginning, and then reading the conclusion at the end, you get a very, very broad synopsis of what they intended to do and what they actually found. The next step is to scan read the article. And here what we're trying to do is reflect on the key aspects of the theme or themes of the article itself. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is to read the headings and only the first sentence of each paragraph. Now, the reason we read only the first sentence of each paragraph is that it is generally an introduction or summary of what we're about to read in the remainder of the paragraph. And so it gives us a brief overview and saves us a lot of time. Next, we look at graphics or diagrams or figures, simply because we know that a picture paints 1,000 words. And so these graphics or diagrams or figures give us a very quick and quite detailed understanding of the general essence of the article. The next step is to pencil down the key points. Now, what we mean by penciling down the key points is that you know that it is going to change. Now, obviously, if you're using a word processor, that is much easier, and so you can set down your thoughts immediately as you're proceeding through the article. So this helps to identify the key themes, ideas, issues dealt with in the text, and it helps create a framework for your summary. But remember that it needs to be fluid and flexible, and you'll see why in a minute. The next step is to address the key aspects. So you've top and tailed and you've done a scan read, and now you've started to address the detail of the article or chapter that you need to summarize. So, using your own words, and this is the important bit, your own words, record the relevant aspects that embody the essence or key elements of that article or chapter. Now, key elements are not always easy to find, and in the next slide we'll give you a mechanism to help you do just that, is to help you break it down and identify those key aspects. Importantly, remember that it is an iterative process. So you may be going over this work 3, 4, or 5 times before you are able to refine it all out. Nevertheless, you need to address the assumptions, the scope, and importantly the limitations that you, and probably the author themselves, have observed in the process of generating their article. Now, critical analysis helps one reflect on the article's actual essence. In other words, it is a process that enables you to extract the finer detail that gives you those key concepts that would go into your summary. Remember, you're trying to remove all of the clutter, all of the unnecessary structure. What you're trying to find is those nuggets, the diamonds, that you want to put into a very succinct statement. So how do we do that? We start looking at who is affected. Identify the people, the organizations, the entities that may be influenced, affected, or benefit. Next, what is it that they are actually addressing in the process? Look at what the authors are focusing on. When the article was written, can have a profound impact on the context in which the writer is observing. And so it is imperative that you establish the time scale to ensure that you're not trying to relate something that is very historic to a current scenario or vice versa. Where does this article apply to? What is the geographic relevance? What is the context? What is the culture within which it was constructed? Very importantly, try to establish why the author actually wrote the article or chapter in the first place. What was the motivation behind the writing of that particular piece of work? And then lastly, how this contributes to the body of knowledge, and in particular the knowledge aspects that you are addressing. You next need to edit your summary, and this is a vital step in the process. It requires that you check the essence of the subject text and ensure that it has been captured correctly. Try to check that there is no bias in your process of its capture. Try to construct that summary seen through the eyes of the author that constructed it in the first place. Go over the framework until it reflects only the key aspects succinctly. Edit your text for style, form, and word count. Summaries, by definition, are intended to give a quick overview of the key aspects of the text that you are summarizing. Always remember to formulate your grammar correctly. And why not make use of the software technology that you're using to summarize in the first place? And finally, spell check your work and ensure that if you're writing in an English context, then it should be English as opposed to an American context where the spelling can be somewhat different. Reflect on your summarizing technique techniques and ensure that you know the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing. There is a separate video on paraphrasing. I hope that this will help you with your summarizing techniques. Good luck. Goodbye.